West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
We move to some other politics now. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is considering unilaterally appointing a second anti-Trump Republican, Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, to the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. That's according to two officials familiar with ongoing discussions who spoke with the New York Times. When asked by NBC News if she thinks Kinzinger would be a good member of the committee, the speaker said, quote, everybody else does. She added that as a veteran, quote, his service is considered, of course, as an asset in what we have to do next. But she would not say whether she'd appoint him. Emerging from a meeting with Speaker Pelosi, Select Committee Chair Benny Thompson confirmed that Kinzinger is being considered.
I think his reputation speaks for itself from all indications. He's a fine representative, people in his district and state loving, and that's the kind of person we'd want to have on this committee.
A source tells NBC News former Virginia Congressman Denver Riggleman, who's been outspoken in his criticism of former President Donald Trump, may become an advisor to help staff the committee. NBC News caught up with Riggleman as he approached a meeting with the speaker.
Are you serving on the committee?
Well, that's all good.
So, Jonathan Lemire, let's kind of get an update on where all of this stands, what this committee exactly would be able to do. Republicans have been talking about having their own committee. Does this muddy the waters? And also, I mean, it does, I think it's fair that you don't want someone on the committee that you would then be bringing as a witness to testify as to what happened that day and what their actions were that day. And that could be some problems for key Republicans.
Sure. I think that's the point that House Speaker Pelosi is making, but Republicans, of course, are objecting to that. So first of all, the Pelosi's committee has their first hearing on Tuesday. So there's our timeline. So if Congressman Kinzinger is going to be appointed, and certainly there seems to be momentum going that way, according to our reporting, it'll be done between now and then. And what we're likely looking at, though, is the Republicans holding their own, if not full-fledged investigation, but at least will be issuing some sort of report at the end of it, which is clearly meant as a distraction to try to muddy the waters, to try to make this that much a he said, she said, if you will, about what happened there. And there's no consensus on the truth. And we should never lose sight of the fact, Mika, that there isn't a bipartisan commission, a September 11th bipartisan commission about what happened on January 6th, solely because the Republicans in the Senate voted it down. Had that been approved, we would be spared all of this political jockeying. over the select committee, and we'd have a bipartisan commission that could take its time and really do a deep dive into what happened. Again, akin to what we saw after September 11th. But that's gone. And now this has become that much more political, that much more representative of the purely partisan, the broken partisanship in the nation's capital, particularly over January 6th, with Republicans trying as best they can to turn the page, to put up distractions, and to move forward with their eyes on next year's midterms.
Gene, we have to underline, and we can't say it enough, as we've been saying this week, why we got here. And that is because Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans said no. They voted down the idea of a bipartisan commission, an actual bipartisan commission like the 9/11 Commission, drove the Congress into a select committee. Nancy Pelosi is the speaker. She establishes the committee. She picked who she was going to pick, and Kevin McCarthy knew by putting Jim Jordan on the committee that was going to create some problems, which would allow him to say that Nancy Pelosi is being unfair and won't accept it's theatrical. It's all theater, and so now we're in this place where Republicans, whatever the conclusions from the select committee, even if Adam Kinzinger is on there, they'll say, well, of course he and Liz Cheney want to look into this because they're partisan and they voted to impeach Donald Trump. We're right back in our partisan lanes on a question that demands clear-eyed, nonpartisan analysis of what happened on that terrible day, even as more videos come out every day showing the truth about what happened.
Right. I mean, first of all, we should recognize and say that Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are partisan Republicans. They are Republicans to the bone. They are not Democrats. So, and I know they will be accused of being Democrats by the House Republicans because that's what they do. It is all theater, as you said. It is all that's all the House Republicans are doing, putting Jim Jordan on the committee in his shirt sleeves, put on a coat, putting Banks on the committee, who announced that he wanted to investigate the response of the Biden administration, which did not exist on January 6th. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and McCarthy had to know it was ridiculous, and that Nancy Pelosi would call him on it because she doesn't play. Look, there is theater happening on the Republican side. There is an official committee of the House of Representatives that will, in an official capacity, investigate what happened on January 6th. And that's really what we should pay attention to, and that's what we should make clear when the Republicans try to muddy the waters, when they try to make it he said, she said. It's not he said, she said. It's there's a committee and there's a sideshow, and we should treat the sideshow for what it is.
It is Friday, the 23rd of July of 2021, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. And our daily special is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's putting us in the hopper. Get my drift. Hey, it's Friday, and we made it to the weekend, and in Biden's America, that's a good thing now. Except for one tidbit of news that I saw come out this morning. Apparently, in a private conversation, I cannot remember if it was by email or telephone call, but recounted by a unnamed person there, that the White House's strategy to stop the Republicans from destroying democracy is to out-organize them. Okay! You mean, in other words, go up to a GOP insurgent and say, don't do that anymore. Please. Pretty please. Nope, not good enough. I think we need a little bit more. Now, on the other hand, if you mean out-organize them by making sure that we balance the court packing of Federalist Society judges by McConnell et al., I got to say, even before the Obama administration. Might we even say from the Clinton administration? Funny how that worked, isn't it? they cut out the American Bar Association as the vetting organization in which to present candidates for judgeships. And then packed the courts with Federalist Society judges up and down the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. And now we find out that the FBI was pretty much an in-house Oppo research team to find out anything bad about their people so they could get ahead of the story. Brett likes beer. Okay. Not enough to keep him off the Supreme Court. All right. Well, is there any recourse for that? Apparently not. We'll just have to out-organize them. Now, like I said, if they mean out-organizing in terms of getting rid of the filibuster so that we can actually pass some bills and get some people into cabinet nomination offices, for instance, Ted Cruz is holding up how many State Department nominations? Because he can. Okay, so we're going to continue playing nice. Is that what I'm hearing? The time for playing nice is done. We know what they're going to do. They do it every time. They loosey that football every time, and we think it's going to be different. And now tell me who is the crazy one. It is the definition of, being crazy. Keep doing that thing over and over and over, and pretty soon Lucy is going to let you kick that ball. And every time it gets pulled out from under you, you're on your back, looking up, going, well, maybe it'll be different next time. Yeah, tell me who is the crazy one. It's time to stop playing nice. We need to, get a little rough. And I don't mean illegally rough. I don't mean falling to base physical altercations rough like they do. But there is a way to stop it. And we have a constitution that will allow it. So how about stop trying to play nice? This January 6th commission is a perfect example of loosing the football again. But good thing we have Nancy Pelosi, huh? Told you so. Yep, she's not only the best vote counter in the history of the speakership, she's also quite an adept tactician. Quite. And she has backed Kevin McCarthy in a corner. And we'll be getting on to some of that probably, next week on Tuesday. That's right. I would like to see more than Kinzinger. Oops, almost made a bad mistake. Kinzinger. I'd like to see more than just he upon the January 6th commission. Do I have others? Not necessarily. But they're there. So I'm not saying, once again, just to reiterate a point, I'm not saying calling up people and threatening them like they do to get their way because they are terrorists. When I say that we have to play rough, I mean playing rough like, the filibuster is a big one right there. Right there. And I know we have a parliamentarian that seems to be, I don't know what's going on with that. But I think that a lot of issues can be dealt with in reconciliation. It costs money, most everything does. Do it under reconciliation. And go from there. If that's what they mean by out organizing, yeah. If they mean by out organizing that we're going to go knock on doors, well, people are going to get shot knocking on doors already. The GOP Republican terrorists have already fouled the waters in that concern. Yeah, you're going to have some revenuers, regulators coming knocking at your door looking for the still. And it's going to be under the guise of asking you or forcing you to take the shot when they're taking your Bibles away. Okay? Yeah. Some kid's going to go walking up, knocking on the door and say, "Hi, we'd like to ask if you like Joe Biden." Okay. You know what happened to the Freedom Riders? We don't want that happening again. And you know everybody down there, everybody everywhere is primed for it. I mean, my God. Flood the streets with billions and billions of guns. And then blame the libs when people start using them. And then use that as an excuse to destroy democracy so that we can have security instead. Where have I heard that story before? All right, well, we were supposed to be exceptional. I thought we wouldn't fall for that. Exceptional means not doing what everybody else has done. Of course, if you don't know what everybody else has done, then you think that it's only happening for the first time. Let's not teach civics in schools anymore. First it was, let's not require civics anymore. And then it was, you know what, we don't even need to teach it. And they don't. And now look where we are. Exactly where they, with a capital T, want us to be. We have to out-organize them? Well, I suppose on one level that could be true. We need to run people for school boards. I think we need to run people for dog catcher and sewage plant, whatever is elected to run the sewage plants even. Every level of our government needs to have us in it because they have embedded their virus everywhere. School boards are a big one right now. Yeah, we're not going to teach about slavery. Who won the effing Civil War and now they're telling us what we're going to teach as history? Give me a break. No, do not negotiate with terrorists. If you're going to out-organize them, do not negotiate with them. Okay. That's my little spiel on a Friday. Let's drink. Wherever you are virtually, you can. You can. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe as we start off on this Blue Moon Spirits Fridays? Well, of course, at the top, because of McCarthy's sideshow, Nancy Pelosi is considering adding more GOP members to the January 6th commission, and I think she's got her eye on a couple of, or a few more than just Adam. That's what I think. On the rest of the menu, the energy giant at the center of a $60 million bribery scheme in Ohio agreed to pay a $230 million bribe so prosecutors won't begin a criminal case against the company. You pay now or you pay later. I guess that's what that means. Sounds like a bribe, too. It is ostensibly a penalty to keep from having a criminal case brought against them. Sounds like a bribe. Anyway, security has been beefed up around a Pennsylvania courthouse after violent threats by Trump supporters demanding a forensic audit. Oh, and the all-Republican county directors said, "You're not getting these voting machines." Another county in Pennsylvania has already had to pay, $30 million or, I don't know, some ungodly amount to replace the voting machines that were corrupted from the same forensic audit by a elected insurgent in Pennsylvania. And Lightning is found to have ignited Oregon's mammoth Bootleg fire. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the UN Security Council rejected a resolution put forward by Russia and China that would have immediately stripped the powers of the Bosnian peace representative. And Norway mourned the 77 slain a decade ago in a right-wing extremist attack. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the right of the page is our chat room link, and the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the left of that chat room link, across the page near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com is the link to our Patreon site, and you know why that's there. If you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, and if you could afford an espresso-type coffee drink and send those funds to or our way once a month, we will then mix those dollars with what we pull out of our own wallets and pay our bills, fly under the radar, and continue this 10-year endeavor to keep America America. Representative democracy, the great experiment. So thank you for your generosity in allowing us to fulfill our civic duty all this many, many years. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, you can do so at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that. Thanks, Tom. Follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Codes about 10 minutes before showtime, and then get that linked up on social media, you know, Twitter, and others we shall leave unnamed. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be found. Okay. Olympics are on. You know, they can kick people off for smoking weed legally, but they can't force their athletes to get vaccinated? Some ungodly number, apparently 100 and some odd, like well over 100 athletes U.S. athletes are unvaccinated. How'd Japan let them in? I don't understand. You just make an edict. If you want to come into our country, you got to be vaccinated. Show me your card. Jeez. They got to show a card, some sort of ID that they qualified to be in the Olympics. But I like how we sent our athletes there. Well, we kicked out some black women. Oh, yeah, get rid of them. They were really good, too. But, you know, they don't represent white America, apparently. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But kick them out for weed or torture them. There's a, I believe, a swimmer. And she's a mom, and she's breastfeeding her kid, and they said, no, you can't bring your kid. The Olympics are, would be untoward if the Olympics, had a breastfeeding mom out there for the world to see. How kinky. We can't have that. That's not representative of whatever the Olympic ideal is. Boy, I don't know. I think there'd be a bunch of Greek women back in the day that would have a word with these fellas. Especially the Spartan women, and you know what they would do. Okay, well, let's dive into this first offering here. I just can't believe that we're actually having the Olympics. You can cancel the Olympics. You can miss them. It's happened before. It sucks, but it's happened before. There's been boycotts. It's not as if people, have not, participated in the Olympics. Okay. And I'm the kind of person who looked forward. Well, at one point, I thought that I might be good enough to be in the Olympics. Don't we all? Anyway, I learned my lessons, shall we say. But anyway, I looked forward to the Olympics as a spectator too, ever since I was a little kid. I remember the Tokyo Olympics in '64, but I was actually into the Olympics even before then when, I was 9 in '64. Oh, no, now you know how old I am. Yes, you do. And so every 4 years, and it was what you look forward to. Like getting up for every single space shot. I did that too. I got a little tired with the space shuttle, I have to admit. But yeah, I look forward to the Olympics, and to say that we should just cancel them says a lot. But you know what? There's more important things going on in the world right now, and we have a pandemic worldwide. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a pandemic. That's what a pandemic is. If it was just in your country, epidemic. We have a pandemic, and we better start taking care. And I'm getting a little tired of people saying, I'm not going to take the shot. And then you got guys like weirdos on there in ICU. I guess they've already been intubated, but they're still going off of like, well, I don't want the vaccine. No one's going to jam that stuff down my throat. Weren't you just intubated? Talking about jamming things down people's throat. I don't know. I don't believe that guy had been intubated yet. I really don't. Because once you're intubated, you don't want to have it done again. Think about the people that have to do it, too. It's not easy. All right, enough. I know. Let's get into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. I have not been tippling. Not yet. It's from the Associated Press by Mark Gillespie, Julie Carr Smythe, and Farnoosh Amiri. The energy giant at the center of a $60 million bribery scheme in Ohio admitted yesterday, Thursday, to using dark money groups to fund the effort. No wonder the Republicans don't want it exposed. They're donors because they're crooks. Well, they agreed to pay $230 million. They had a $60 million bribe. They got caught. Now they got to pay $230 million and other conditions so prosecutors won't forge ahead with a criminal case against the company. Sounds like a bribe. Really does. We'll pay you some money not to bring charges against us. Okay. Authorities charged Akron-based First Energy Corp. with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, alleging payoffs to public officials to back a $1 billion subsidy that would have had taxpayers helping the company prop up two aging nuclear plants. Yes, nukes. The charge could be dropped in 3 years if the company complies with the terms of the deal, such as continuing to cooperate with investigators looking into the kickbacks to officials, who included the Ohio House Speaker and a lobbyist who would become the state's top utility regulator. The deal, signed off by First Energy's president and CEO, comes in a scandal that has affected businesses and politics across Ohio since the arrest a year ago of then Ohio House Speaker Larry Householder and 4 associates. Government officials say Householder orchestrated a plan to accept corporate money for personal and political use in exchange for passing nuclear bailout legislation and scuttling an effort to repeal the bill. Acting U.S. Attorney Vipul J. Patel called the $230 million penalty probably the largest ever secured by his office. First Energy is one of the largest investor-owned electric systems in the nation, with an annual revenue last year of $10.8 billion with a B. Patel rejected suggestions that the sum was too lenient. So the principle here is to try to come up with a number that stings, okay, but doesn't annihilate, Patel said, asserting that decimating the company's finances would hurt employees and customers and diminish First Energy's incentive to cooperate. Half of the $230 million penalty will go to the federal government, and the other half will be paid to a program that benefits Ohio's regulated utility customers. First Energy also has to forfeit about $6 million seized from the accounts of one of the dark money groups, Partners for Progress. Under the agreement, First Energy also must make public any new corporate payments it's aware of that were intended to influence a public official and continue an internal makeover of its ethics practices. It also must issue a public statement describing that it intentionally used dark money groups to hide the scheme. Reuters brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. One of the Pennsylvania counties targeted in a Republican lawmaker's forensic investigation into the 2020 election has beefed up security around its courthouse following threatening posts on social media. The incendiary Facebook posts appeared targeted at members of Tioga County's all-Republican Board of Commissioners after they decided not to comply with the lawmakers' request to turn over their voting machines, Commissioner Eric Coolidge said. One individual, in an apparent reference to the county's 3 commissioners, called them traitors and said there were plenty of trees in a nearby gorge to hang ropes from, according to a post viewed by Reuters on a Facebook page. Funny how it's probably still there and that person hasn't been suspended, right? But if you share information from the Smithsonian about Reconstruction and race riots in America since Reconstruction, you'll be suspended for 30 days for bullying and harassing Nazis. You will. Well, in response, the law enforcement presence was strengthened around their offices at the courthouse in the town of Wellsboro. The Tioga County Sheriff's Office did not reply to a request for comment. Pennsylvania has already conducted a so-called risk-limiting audit of the November election, and all counties also audited a sample of their votes as mandated by law. Neither effort, or neither effort, depending on how you are, turned up widespread fraud to put in question Trump's loss to Joe Biden in the state by 81,000 votes. State Senator Doug Mastriano, that's the elected insurgent I mentioned about previous, a promoter of Trump's baseless stolen election claims, and that's by the authors of this article, by the way, mentioning that, has nevertheless argued that a deeper probe involving the inspection of equipment was needed because so many people doubted Trump's defeat. Well, you got people who are like on ventilators saying that they don't want the vaccine because it's a government plot to put a chip in their bloodstream and then into their brains. They've been brainwashed. You guys brainwashed them, and now you want to destroy America because people doubt America? Please. Earlier this month, he started the probe with requests to Tioga, Philadelphia, and York counties for access to their voting machines. Tioga, a rural county of 40,000 people on the state's northern border with New York, told him they could not comply after the state's top election official warned counties that their equipment would be decertified if they cooperated. The move angered many Trump supporters. Audit the Vote PA, a group that has been promoting Mastriano's efforts, said in a Facebook post on Thursday that it had been informed of death threats against Tioga County commissioners. We never, ever would condone violence, and we would never advocate for that, it said, probably winking and keeping their fingers crossed behind their back while they made the statement. Coolidge, a Trump supporter and veteran of Republican politics in the state. Now, this is the Republican county commissioner. Okay? He's a Trump supporter. Said Mastriano was partly to blame for the tensions. He described his approach as terribly offensive, saying he had led people to believe that a lack of immediate compliance meant counties were trying to conceal something. Mastriano, who did not respond to a request for comment, has given counties until July 31 to comply or face a subpoena. There is nothing to fear if there is nothing to hide, he wrote in a July 7th editorial explaining the rationale for his probe. Sounds like a threat. He owes us an apology for the way he conducted this because he incited all of those who believe this needs to take place. And that was by the Commissioner Coolidge, who continued, I am as angry at this individual as I humanly possibly can be. Coolidge said the county was open to complying with the investigation as long as it was deemed legal. Mastriano was able to get the committee he chairs to issue a subpoena for access to the equipment, and also that taxpayers did not bear any costs. Gorman of Reuters brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A destructive Oregon wildfire that ranks as the largest among dozens raging across the drought-parched western United States in recent weeks was ignited by lightning but smoldered for days before it was detected. The origin of the so-called Bootleg fire, which was first reported on July 6 in the Fremont-Winema National Forest, some 250 miles south of Portland, came to light as ground crews made increasing headway in curtailing the blaze. Strike teams are taking advantage of calmer winds, cooler temperatures, and slightly higher humidity over the past 2 days to extend and bolster containment lines around the fire's periphery, incident commanders reported in their latest summary. Although the blaze continued to expand, its growth was stunted as flames advanced into an old fire-scarred area with less vegetation able to burn. As of Wednesday, the Bootleg had charred 395,463 acres. You know, if it was just me, I'd say it was almost 400,000 acres, but that's just me. Anyway, it's of tinder dry brush and timber, an area well over half as big as Rhode Island. At that size, the fire was just a few hundred acres away from becoming Oregon's third largest fire on record since 1900. It has also blackened far more acreage than any one of about 80 major active wildfires currently reported in 13 western states this week. Those fires, along with a bootleg, have collectively scorched more than 1.3 million acres in an unusually heavy start to the western fire season that experts say is symptomatic of climate change. All right, let's get to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, No Child Left Behind. Warning, spoilers in the second minute. Black Widow takes place in 2016 after Avengers Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War. Ultron has annihilated Sokovia, and Natasha's surrogate family, the Avengers, have broken up over the Sokovia Accords, set up to regulate people with powers. Most of her fellow anti-Accords Avengers are in jail, and Natasha, played by Scarlett Johansson, as if you didn't know, is alone and on the run. It is then that Nat is contacted by her younger sister Yelena, played by Almost Steals the Movie Florence Pugh. Nat has put her sister out of her life both physically and emotionally, but Yelena has news. Natasha failed to destroy the Red Room, the evil secret Russian program that turned little girls into deadly spies. Little girls like Nat and Yelena, who were given over to the Red Room by their parents. However, where Nat was psychologically conditioned to serve the horrid General Dreykov, Dreykov has chemically brainwashed Yelena and other modern-day widows. Yelena has the chemical antidote, has taken it, gives it over to Natasha, and the two must reunite with their estranged parents to find the Red Room and end Dreykov's reign of widow subjugation and global assassination. Now, you would think that Black Widow is a movie about family. After all, Hollywood loves making films about the family in jeopardy. They love it. However, gratefully, refreshingly, thank Godingly, Black Widow is much more nuanced than that overworked motif. Black Widow is about how important it is to care for other people and to be cared for by other people. And in this movie, caring means not abandoning people when they need you. That's why the final skydive sequence has thematic significance as well as action spectacle. Yelena falls in sacrifice, but Nat throws herself to catch her. Cool, but Nat's arc is not complete until she bemoans having left Yelena to her Red Room fate and acknowledges their sisterly bond. In a time when a chemical vaccine is freeing us from subjugation by a biological agent, how apropos for Black Widow to talk about reaching out to our loved ones and to not leave them behind. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Heart disease and stroke can be catastrophic. They're leading causes of death, disability, and healthcare spending in the U.S., yet they're largely preventable. Alarmingly, heart disease and stroke are taking a toll on middle-aged adults 35 to 64, with over 800,000 deaths and hospitalizations in 2016. Million Hearts is a national initiative focused on preventing 1 million heart attacks, strokes, and other cardiovascular events by 2022. Coordinated actions by Million Hearts partners in communities, healthcare, and public health will keep people healthy, optimize care, and improve outcomes in populations at risk. Everyone has a part to play. Focus on the ABCs of heart health. A. Aspirin use when appropriate. B. Blood pressure control. C. Cholesterol management, and S, smoking cessation. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Colorectal cancer is the number 2 cancer killer of men and women in the United States, but it is preventable. Early on, colorectal cancer typically has no symptoms. It starts with a precancerous polyp or abnormal growth in the colon, which can be removed without surgery. Several tests are available to find these polyps, so they can be removed before they turn into cancer. Screening also finds colorectal cancer early when treatment works best. Recommended screening for adults at average risk begins at age 50 and continues until age 75. Learn about screening test options and find out which tests are covered by insurance. Talk to your healthcare provider about when you should be screened and discuss the best tests for you. For more information about colorectal cancer prevention, please visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
Does it matter that the Arizona Senate is continuing to try to prove that Donald Trump won that state in 2020? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. The 2020 presidential vote in Arizona was really close. 3.4 million ballots were cast, and Biden defeated Trump by 10,400 votes. Multiple recounts and audits proved that the election was secure, the votes were accurately counted, and that there was no fraud. But some months ago, the Arizona Senate handed the state's ballots to a partisan group for a recount or audit of the votes in Maricopa County. That's the Phoenix area that Biden carried. With the result that of the 2.1 million ballots cast in that county, this audit shows, once again, that the votes were counted accurately. There was no fraud. But the truth doesn't matter. The drumbeat of falsehoods continues unabated, with the consequence that as of July, 17 states have passed new voter suppression laws for which the Supreme Court has greased the legal path by, in July, gutting the Voting Rights Act. We desperately need Congress to pass legislation to protect the right to vote. Voter suppression allows the powerful to maintain their power and can reduce elections to window dressing for authoritarianism. Voter suppression is the most pernicious kind of election fraud, and voter suppression, the new Jim Crow, is a clear and present danger and is putting democracy at grave risk. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1913. That was the day 9,000 copper miners in the Keweenaw region of Upper Peninsula, Michigan, went out on strike. Organized by the Western Federation of Miners, the strike raged on for over 8 months, witnessing devastating tragedy in a Christmas Day fire and ending in bitter defeat. The strike was waged over basic issues like the 8-hour day, higher wages, mine safety, and union recognition. But strikers were also fed up with the company's paternalism and intrusion into their personal lives. They also worried for their jobs with the introduction of labor-saving machinery. The Western Federation of Miners succeeded early on in shutting down the mines, but the copper barons wouldn't budge. By August, many mines reopened with scab labor. Later that month, deputies shot 2 strikers dead and wounded 2 others as they returned home from attempting to collect strike benefits. The incident became known as the Seaborville Massacre. Striking miners were absolutely devastated when on Christmas Day, 73, mostly children, were trampled to death during a Christmas party and benefit at the Italian Hall in Calumet. Witnesses remembered seeing a man with a Citizens Alliance button just moments before someone yelled fire that caused the stampede. Soon after the Italian Hall disaster, Western Federation of Miner President Charles Moyer was shot by a Citizens Alliance mob, then loaded, bleeding, onto a train bound for Chicago. By April, the union was broke, the strike was broken, and the miners resolved to return to work. Bosses would only rehire strikers once they had turned in their union cards. The copper mines in the region would finally be organized some 30 years later in a campaign led by Mine Mill during the years 1939 to 1943. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 58 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting a high of a similar temperature as yesterday. We were actually expecting highs much higher, but today the high should only be around 95, which is about what it was yesterday. It was actually quite nice for most of the day. Abundant sunshine, winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, clear skies overnight with lows in the low 60s, winds continuing out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and sunny skies tomorrow, highs around 100? Well, that's not good. We're inching up again, unfortunately. Winds will be increasing out of the north-northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Confirmed cases of coronavirus in Jackson County in the southern part of Oregon have increased once again, and now stands at 121,035 people, with deceased remaining at its increased total from yesterday at 151. Grass pollen is considered moderate right here in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is surprisingly good at 29 parts per million and has been for a while, even though we're ringed by fires, but they're blowing east all the way to New York and beyond. And that daytime UV index remains very high, now at 8 because of the angle of the sun. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.19 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 68%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. London is 74 and partly cloudy. Paris is 85 and sunny. Rome is 92 and sunny. Kyiv is 78 and fair. Kabul is 81 and partly cloudy. Hong Kong is 82 degrees and clear. Tokyo is 81 and partly cloudy for the Olympics. Sydney, Australia is 55 and clear. San Francisco, California is 56 and partly cloudy. And New York, has to be a smoky 77 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Sam Lederer of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The UN Security Council yesterday, Thursday, rejected a resolution put forward by Russia and China that would have immediately stripped the powers of the International High Representative overseeing implementation of the 1995 peace agreement that ended the devastating war in Bosnia and eliminated the position entirely in 1 year. The draft resolution failed to get the minimum 9 yes votes for adoption. The vote was 2-0, with only Russia and China voting yes, and the 13 other council members abstaining. The rejected resolution said the powers given to the High Representative at a conference on implementing the Dayton Peace Agreement in 1997 are no longer required given the progress achieved by the Bosnian parties. It supported the appointment of High Representative Christian Schmidt of Germany until July 31, 2022, with closure of the office of the High Representative. Before the vote, Russia's deputy UN ambassador accused the High Representative of becoming like a czar with almost post-colonial type of powers, and said the choice of Schmidt was not legitimate without Security Council approval. The U.S. brokered Dayton Accord, which ended the 92 to 1995 war with more than 100,000 people dead, established 2 separate entities in Bosnia, one run by Bosnia Serbs and another one dominated by the country's Bosniaks, who are mostly Muslims, and its Croats.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière, la promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle, c'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
David Keaton and Mark Lewis of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Church bells rang out across Norway yesterday, Thursday, to mark the 10th anniversary of the country's worst peacetime slaughter, as leaders called for renewed efforts to fight the extremism behind the attack that left 77 people dead. Norway was united in shock, grief, and anger, said King Harold, speaking at an evening memorial service where he apologized that not enough was done to curb what he called the dark forces in society. On July 22nd of 2011, right-wing extremist Anders Breivik set off a bomb in the capital of Oslo, killing 8 people. Then he headed to the tiny Udoa Island, where he stalked the mostly teen members of the Labour Party's youth wing, killing another 69. The 84-year-old monarch arrived at the cathedral on crutches and took a seat for the service beside Queen Sonia for a minute of silence. At an evening service, Harold said he hoped Norwegians can help each other live the lessons from July 22nd every day in everything we are and do. At the same time, we must acknowledge that we as a society have not done nearly enough to see, to help, to carry the burden together, and to counteract the dark forces, the king said. I am sorry about this. Some parents of the victims reflected on how the country has coped since the massacre, saying that time does not heal all wounds. Small boats dotted the water around the island, a reminder of attempts by many residents to rescue people 10 years ago, while Breivik fired toward them. All right, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day and the week, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up on Monday for River City Hash Mondays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here on Monday, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.